My stepmother made me cook and clean for 5 hours, then called the cops on me. "You're such a leech," my stepsister said. I didn't argue. But 2 hours later, my dad watched a video and went pale. And if you're thinking, okay, that can't be real, I get it. I wish it wasn't. But welcome to my life, where I learned that in America you can do everything right, still get blamed, and then get told to be more grateful by someone who's never held a mop in her entire existence. So yeah, let me back up before I start sounding like a courtroom drama. I grew up in a little place called Willow Creek, the kind of town where the diner knows your order, the neighbors know your business, and if you sneeze too loudly, somebody's aunt will text your grandma to ask if you're sick. I lived with my grandma, Patricia Thompson, Grandma Pat, because my dad, Stephen, worked at sea. He was a marine engineer, which means he fixed engines on ships that were basically floating cities, and he was gone so much I started measuring time by his duffel bag. When the duffel bag appeared, Dad existed. When it disappeared, so did he. He wasn't cruel. He didn't yell. He didn't hit. He just wasn't there. And when he was there, he acted like being a parent came with instructions he'd lost somewhere in the Pacific. He'd stand in the doorway, watch me doing homework, and say things like, "Everything good?" Like he was checking a fridge temperature. I'd nod. He'd nod back. End of conversation. Grandma Pat did the actual parenting, the real kind, the kind where you notice when a kid is quiet in the wrong way. She made pancakes when I was sad, and grilled cheese when I was stressed, and she had a sixth sense for lies, especially my "I'm fine." But the other person who mattered? Our neighbor, Robert Miller. Robert was that man every small town has. Half mystery, half kindness. Full-time, doesn't talk much but somehow knows everything. He lived next door with a porch, a guitar, and an old dog that moved like it had been disappointed since 2009. I was 8 when I first wandered over and stared at his hands while he played. "You sing?" he asked, without looking up. "No," I lied. Robert didn't argue with kids. He just handed me the guitar like he already knew the truth. And that's how my life got a soundtrack. I sang in the community center choir. I did little performances at town events. Robert taught me chords and showed me how to breathe before a note, like confidence was something you could train. "You've got a voice," he told me once. "Don't let anybody convince you it's inconvenient." I didn't understand how important that sentence would be later. It wasn't dramatic. No movie moment. Just one phone call, one hospital hallway, and one day where the world kept spinning even though mine stopped. Dad came home for the funeral. He hugged me like he was afraid I might break, then stood at the edge of the room like grief had made him a guest in his own life. After the burial, he sat at Grandma Pat's kitchen table and stared at the wood like it could give him answers. "We can't stay here," he said finally. I blinked. "What do you mean?" He rubbed his face. "I'm not leaving you alone. I can't." There it was. The first time in my life he said something that sounded like responsibility instead of avoidance. So we packed. Willow Creek became a memory. Robert became a voice on the phone. And I became the girl who lost her grandma and got uprooted like a plant. We moved to Norfolk, Virginia. Port City, shipyards, real work for a man like my dad. It made sense for him. For me, it felt like getting dropped into someone else's movie halfway through. New school, new people, new everything. My first day, I ate lunch in a bathroom stall because the cafeteria sounded like a stadium and I didn't have the energy to pretend I belonged. But I adapted, because that's what kids do when adults make choices and call them for the best. I found a music program at school. I joined choir. I took cheap guitar lessons where I could. I was trying to keep the one part of me that still felt like me. Dad improved too. A little. He'd bring home takeout sometimes. He'd ask, "How's school?" and actually wait for an answer. It wasn't warm. It wasn't close. But it was progress. Then one day, he came home smiling. And Dad did not smile unless something either A was wrong or B involved an engine. "I met someone," he said. Her name was Angela. She was polished in a way that made you feel underdressed just standing near her. Hair perfect, teeth perfect, sympathy preloaded like an app. The first time I met her, she hugged me tightly and said, "Oh, sweetheart, it must have been so hard. I can't imagine." And she said it loud enough for Dad to hear every word. That was Angela's thing. Everything kind, everything public. Then her daughter appeared behind her. Samantha. Sam. Same age as me, same I'm bored face, same energy as a cat deciding whether you deserve to live. She looked me up and down and said, "So you're Emily." Not hi. Not nice to meet you. More like, "So you're the problem I've heard about." Angela laughed, too bright. "Sam's just shy." Sam wasn't shy. Sam was a professional hater with a part-time smile. But I tried. I really did. Because Dad looked relieved when Angela was around. Like he could finally put down a burden he'd been carrying awkwardly. They started coming by more. Angela cooked dinners like she was filming a lifestyle channel. She brought me little gifts. Lip gloss, a sweater, a notebook with "Dream Big" on it. "You deserve a real family," she'd say. And I hated myself for wanting to believe her. Then Dad, my emotionally stunted, sea-worn father, did the thing I didn't expect. He proposed. They got married at the courthouse 3 months later. Quick, clean, legal. And I swear to you, the second that marriage certificate existed, Angela's personality updated like software. New version, less friendly, more control. It started with comments. "Emily, you left a cup in the sink." "Emily, you chew too loudly." "Emily, you don't fold towels like an adult." Then it became rules. A chore chart appeared on the fridge like a threat held up by magnets. Sam had 2 little tasks. Take out the trash twice a week, feed the dog sometimes. I had an entire household. Laundry, floors, bathrooms, dishes, dinner prep, grocery unloading, vacuuming, mopping, cleaning baseboards, because apparently Angela was training me to become a Victorian-era maid. And whenever I looked exhausted or confused, Angela would tilt her head like I was letting her down. "I'm teaching you responsibility," she'd say. Sam would watch from the couch like she was supervising a documentary about poverty. "You should be grateful," she told me once while I scrubbed the stove. "Some girls don't even have families." I stared at her. My hands smelled like bleach. She added, "And you contribute nothing. You just take." Sam loved that word. Take. Like I was stealing oxygen. Dad didn't see it because Dad wasn't home. He took another contract. Weeks. Months. Angela acted like a hero holding the household together while he was gone. When he called, she made sure I sounded cheerful. "Tell your father how thankful you are," she'd whisper, handing me the phone. I'd swallow everything I wanted to say and go, "Thanks, Dad," like a hostage reading a script. After the call, Angela would smile at me. "You did good," she'd say, like I'd just lied correctly. The biggest problem wasn't the chores. It was what Angela did to everything I loved. Music became a distraction. Guitar practice became noise. Singing became showing off. One afternoon, I came home with a flyer for a school showcase. Choir is doing solos, I told Dad on the phone. I got invited to audition. Before he could answer, Angela's voice floated in from the kitchen. Solos? She repeated, like I'd said arson. Emily, you have responsibilities. You can't keep chasing fantasies. Dad hesitated, because Dad always hesitated when two people wanted different things. Maybe you can do it another time, he said. Angela smiled like she'd won a prize. That night, my guitar wasn't in the corner where I left it. I found it in the hall closet, behind cleaning supplies. Angela didn't look up from her phone when I brought it out. Oh, she said casually. I put it away? You were getting obsessed. Obsessed. Right, because wanting one thing for yourself is a character flaw when you're living under someone else's roof. And it got worse. Angela started controlling my schedule the way people control a dog leash. If I wanted to go to the library, no, the house needs attention. If I wanted to sit in my room, why are you hiding? If I wanted to call Robert in Willow Creek, you're clinging to the past. She didn't want me to have support. Support is dangerous. Support makes kids realize they're not crazy. Grandma Pat had left me her house back in Willow Creek. Not in a messy way. Not, oh, here's a handwritten note. She'd done it properly, put it in a trust, with my dad as trustee until I turned 18. It wasn't some mansion. It was an old, modest house with a garden and a porch and a lifetime of memories. But to Angela, it wasn't a home. It was a number. She started bringing it up constantly. It's just sitting there, Stephen. It's a burden. It costs money to maintain. We could sell it and put the money into the family. The family, meaning her. Dad would rub his forehead and say, "It's Emily's." Angela would smile sweetly. Of course. I'm just thinking about what's smart. Angela always used the word smart when she meant profitable. And then a new name started appearing in our house like a bad smell. Tyler. Tyler says we have options. Tyler thinks this would be cleaner. Tyler can handle the paperwork. Tyler was an attorney. And based on the way Angela's voice softened when she said his name, Tyler was also not just an attorney. I overheard her on the phone one night while I was walking to the kitchen for water. We can petition, she murmured. If we show she's unstable, family court takes it seriously. Yes, Tyler, I know, but we need a record. A pattern. I froze in the hallway. Unstable? Record? Pattern? I went back to my room and sat on my bed staring at the wall like it might explain why my life was turning into a legal thriller. And here's the part that makes people think I'm exaggerating. After that call, Angela started trying to create the pattern. If I came home 5 minutes late, she'd text Dad immediately. Emily didn't come straight home. I'm worried. If I sighed too loudly, she's disrespectful and aggressive. If I didn't smile, she's withdrawn and manipulative. Sam joined in like it was a sport. She's always acting like a victim, Sam told Dad once on speakerphone, not realizing I was in the room. It's exhausting. I looked at Angela. Angela looked right back at me and smiled, calm as a hostage negotiator. Dad started sounding tired when he called. Are you giving Angela a hard time? And that's when I realized something awful. Angela wasn't just trying to control me. She was trying to rewrite me. Because if she could convince Dad I was difficult, she could justify anything. She could justify punishing me. She could justify isolating me. She could justify going to court and saying, "This child is unstable, and her father's never home, so I should manage the assets." It was a plan. A disgusting plan. And I was the obstacle. Before Dad left for his contract, he did something responsible. He installed a couple of small security cameras in the common areas, entryway, living room, kitchen. No audio, just video. He told me it was for safety. And maybe part of it was, but I could tell there was another reason. Dad was afraid. Not afraid of Angela. Afraid of me. Afraid that I was exaggerating. Afraid that I was becoming a typical teen. Afraid that he'd come home to some disaster and everyone would say, "How did you not see this?" So he did what a lot of people do when they don't know who to believe. He tried to outsource trust to technology, which is kind of funny, in a tragic way, because the cameras didn't catch me lying. They caught Angela. Angela woke me up at 6:30 a.m. like she was starting a shift at a prison. "Up," she snapped. "Kitchen, now!" I stumbled in, still half asleep, and she shoved a list at me. It was insane. Clean the bathrooms, vacuum and mop the entire first floor, 2 loads of laundry, cook breakfast, cook lunch, prep dinner, organize the pantry, wipe down the fridge, polish the kitchen cabinets. I stared at it. "Why?" Angela smiled. "Because you live here." Sam wandered in wearing leggings that probably cost more than my groceries for a month. She poured herself juice and leaned against the counter like she was judging a competition. "Don't complain," she said. "You literally contribute nothing." Then she walked out with her juice like she'd paid rent. I didn't argue. Not because I was weak, because I'd learned arguing with them was like yelling into a pillow that hates you back. So I did it. 5 hours of scrubbing, chopping, stirring, hauling, wiping. My arms shook. My back burned. I hadn't sat down once. At 11:45, I finally leaned on the counter for 10 seconds, 10, and breathed. Angela looked up like she'd caught me stealing. "Oh," she said loudly. "So you're done?" "I'm not... She picked up her phone. For half a second, I thought she was calling Dad. Nope. She dialed 911. I actually laughed once, like a reflex, because my brain couldn't accept how ridiculous it was. Then she said, calm and clear, "Hi, I need an officer. My stepdaughter is refusing to comply. She's out of control." Sam's eyes lit up like it was a theme park. I stood there holding a dish towel, blinking. Angela added, "She's been stealing. She threatens me. I'm scared." I didn't even speak. Because what do you say when someone is inventing a crime documentary about you while you're wearing an apron? Sam leaned in and whispered, "You're such a leech." I didn't argue. Police officers showed up less than 20 minutes later. 2 of them, one older with tired eyes, one younger with that, "Why did I sign up for this shift?" look. Angela turned on her concerned mother voice so fast it should have come with a warning label. "Thank you for coming," she said, hands clasped. "I'm just at my wit's end." The older officer looked at me, then at the spotless kitchen. "Are you okay?" he asked quietly. "Yes," I said. "I've been cleaning since morning. That's literally it." Angela jumped in immediately. "She lies," she said. "She manipulates. Her father is away, and she's become aggressive." "Aggressive?" I repeated, staring at my own hands. They were raw from cleaner. The younger officer glanced at Angela, then at Sam, who was lounging like this was entertainment. "Ma'am," the older officer said carefully, "calling 911 is for emergencies." Angela widened her eyes. "I was afraid." "Of what?" the younger one asked. Angela hesitated for half a beat, just long enough for the mask to slip, then recovered. "She's unpredictable." I almost laughed again. Unpredictable. Me. The girl who just deep cleaned your cabinets like a paid employee. They didn't arrest me. This isn't TV. But they did write a report, because once you call 911 and claim fear, they document it. They asked me if I had somewhere else to go. They told Angela that if she kept reporting out-of-control behavior, the situation could involve juvenile services, and if anyone suspected neglect or abuse, it could involve CPS. Angela smiled the whole time like she'd won something. After the officers left, she stepped close enough that I could smell her perfume. "You see what happens," she whispered, sweet as poison. "Keep pushing me." Then she walked away like she'd just performed a magic trick. I went to my room, shaking, and did the only thing I could think of. I texted Dad. She called the cops on me. No emojis, no dramatic speech. Just the truth. 2 hours later, my dad watched a video and went pale. It was a crime scene with a chore chart. Dad checked the camera feed from where he was, sitting in a metal room on a ship, probably drinking coffee that tasted like regret. The vessel was still docked in Norfolk, so he had signal, and no excuse not to look. He watched Angela hand me the list. He watched me work for hours. No breaks, no sitting, just moving. He watched Sam stroll in, insult me, and walk out. He watched Angela call 911 without raising her voice, lying like it was breathing. He watched the officers arrive. He watched Angela play victim. He watched me answer politely, calm, like I was the adult in the room. And then, because bad people always get sloppy when they think they're safe, he watched the next part. That afternoon, Tyler showed up. Not as a professional visit. As a man walking into someone's house like he belonged there. Angela hugged him. Not a polite hug. A, "you're not just my lawyer" hug. Tyler handed her a folder. She flipped through it, tapped a page, smiled. Sam leaned in to look, like she was watching a trailer for her inheritance. Angela pointed at something again, something I didn't understand then, but Dad did. Because he'd seen paperwork like that before, in a different context. Petitions, forms, court language, family court language. Angela looked up, still unaware the camera existed, and said something Dad could read on her lips even without sound. "Once he signs, it's ours." Dad went pale. Not metaphorically, not he was shocked. He went white. Because he realized this wasn't just blended family stress. It was a plan, a legal plan, and I wasn't the target. My inheritance was. He didn't text me. He didn't call Angela. He called his supervisor and said there was an emergency and he was leaving. Then he drove home like the road owed him answers. I was upstairs when I heard the front door slam. Not an "I'm home" slam, a "this house is about to be cleansed" slam. Angela appeared in the kitchen wearing her soft sweater and her innocent face. "Oh, Stephen, you're early." Dad didn't even take off his boots. "Where's Emily?" he asked. Angela's smile didn't move. "She's sulking. She caused a scene today and I had to call the police for everyone's safety." "Don't," Dad said. Angela blinked. "Excuse me?" He held up his phone. "I watched the footage." Sam appeared on the stairs, curious. Tyler stepped out from the living room and froze like someone had unplugged him. Angela's face did something strange, like it couldn't decide whether to stay charming or turn ugly. "Stephen," she said slowly, "are you spying on your own family?" Dad laughed once. It wasn't happy. "I wasn't spying," he said. "I was trying to prove my daughter was lying." Then he looked past Angela, straight at me in the hallway, and for the first time in a long time, he looked like my dad. Not a man passing through, not a tired stranger. A father. "I'm sorry," he said, voice cracking. "I'm so sorry." Angela snapped. "This is ridiculous! She's manipulative." Dad didn't even flinch. "You called the cops on a kid who was cleaning your house. She's ungrateful. She's my daughter." Sam scoffed, loud and nasty. "She's a leech." Dad turned so fast, Sam actually stepped back. "Pack your stuff," he said to Angela. "Both of you. Now." Angela's mask fell completely. "You can't just... I live here." "No," Dad said. "You lived here." Tyler cleared his throat like he was about to switch into courtroom mode. "Stephen, let's be rational. We can discuss the trust arrangement and..." Dad pointed at him without looking. "And you can get out of my house before I call the police again. This time for trespassing." Tyler opened his mouth. Nothing came out. Because for once, Angela didn't control the story. She tried one last move. The classic. "You'll regret this," she hissed. "She'll ruin you. She'll accuse you of things." Dad stared her down. "Funny," he said. "That's exactly what you tried to do to her." Angela stormed upstairs. Sam followed, muttering insults like she needed the last word to breathe. I stood there shaking, not because I was scared of them anymore, but because my body didn't know what to do with the sudden absence of danger. Dad walked toward me slowly, like he was afraid I'd disappear if he moved too fast. Then he hugged me. It was awkward, stiff, real. "I should have believed you," he whispered. I didn't say, "Yeah, no kidding." I just held on, because I didn't need a speech. I needed him to stay. That night, Angela and Sam left with 2 suitcases and a thundercloud. Tyler didn't look at me on his way out. He stared at the floor like it had better legal advice than he did. Dad changed the locks. The next morning, he did the most American thing possible. He made phone calls. He called a divorce attorney. He called someone to check the trust documents and make sure no one had filed anything while he was away. He asked what it would take for Angela to try to petition for control and what it would take to stop it cold. Then he called Robert Miller in Willow Creek, because he remembered suddenly that I had a whole life before Angela. Robert didn't say, "I told you so." He just said, "You two okay?" And for the first time in months, I could answer honestly. "We're getting there." Dad took leave from work. Not forever. Not magically, but long enough to prove something to me. One morning he called me into the kitchen, the same kitchen that had felt like my punishment chamber. He slid a mug of hot chocolate across the table. "I'm home," he said. I stared. "For how long?" He swallowed. "As long as I can make it work," he said. "And longer than I've been doing." He rubbed his hands together like he was nervous. "I thought being a good father meant providing," he said quietly. "Turns out it also means being here." I looked around at the quiet house. No chore chart. No footsteps demanding more. No voice calling me a burden. Just my dad, trying. It wasn't a perfect ending, but it was a real one. And for the first time since Grandma Pat died, I felt something I hadn't felt in a long time. Safe. Not because I suddenly became stronger, but because the right person finally opened his eyes, and the truth had been sitting there the whole time, caught on camera. Thanks for spending your time with me. If you want more stories like this, hit subscribe and give this video a like. And don't be shy, leave a comment. Your support means a lot. Take care, and I'll catch you in the next one.